Alright, so Cobra Kai has officially come to an end, and as we have said, a farewell to the show, to the characters, especially with this series that we all come to love as a legacy show from the Karate Kid trilogy. And even though I really enjoyed it, I thought that this delivered the best ending to any other series, specifically with the show in general. So a lot to break down, and so in this video I'm going to go over the ending to the series finale, especially with part 3, especially with all the iconic moments, especially with the final couple minutes as well. And this is going to be spoiler territory, so you've been warned. And so if you're new, then be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so much on any future vids. But now let's get right into it. And now at the beginning of part 3 with Kreese and Cobra Kai mourning the death of Quan, and especially after what happened at the end of part 2, he fell on the knife and died. So I'm glad that they acknowledged this and gave him a proper funeral. And then with Daniel, Johnny, and the rest of Miyagi-Do, they are back home in the valley and away from the Segai Taikai in Barcelona. And even with everyone that is trying to move on, especially with Daniel, but even with Silver, that has his own plot and agenda, I just couldn't accept the fact that a kid died during the tournament brawl. Later that we see him talking to Daniel and Johnny into talking them into resuming the tournament, especially with Johnny that is on board, but even with Daniel that is clearly not, because he really wants to move on from the tragedy, especially after what happened, because he doesn't want anything to happen to Sam. But even with Miyagi-Do and Daniel and Johnny that eventually agreed to let the Segai Taikai to be back on to resume it in the valley, because that's how the tournament started off in Barcelona, but now it's going to end in the valley. And then we see this great training montage of Miyagi-Do training to get into the best shape possible. That we see some moments between Sam and Tori, because especially with Tori, that is really acknowledging the fact that she is really trying to move on. She does really not want to do that, because especially after what happened with Tori throughout the final season of part 1 and 2 of the way that she is feeling, especially towards Robbie. And also I really want to state the fact that even though it started off a little bit slow, but then it ended off with some really great big moments, and which I'll get to in a bit in this video. And then especially at the end of episode 12, for when we see Johnny and Carmen give birth to their baby, especially with Johnny that really wants to propose to Carmen and to have them getting married, which is really all we wanted for Johnny, and to have him live a happily ever after, to give him a happy ending with Carmen, especially after everything that Johnny has been going through. And then we get the most sweetest and emotional moment ever, that we see them get married and giving birth in one place, the hospital room, especially with their friends and family by their side. And even for the fact that the baby's name is Laura, after Johnny's mother, and that really brings it all full circle. And especially for the moment when Johnny says that we're gonna bring you home a trophy. I mean, I'm pretty sure that gave Carmen a really happy smile, and it is really an emotional moment. And then as we see the tournament be back on with the students and all of the dojos competing, and that's with Miyagi-Do, Cobra Kai, and the Iron Dragons. And then we see a moment when they lose, and then we see the most amazing scene ever, and that's with Daniel in a dream sequence, as he has the moment from the very first Karate Kid movie, but from his perspective. And that was from when Daniel was attacked by Johnny and his gang in their skeleton outfits. And then we get an appearance from the one and only Mr. Miyagi and coming to fight. And now I didn't like for how they used AI deepfake technology on his face. I thought that was very dumb. But especially as we get this iconic shot of Daniel and Miyagi fighting side by side, and honestly it was a great way to end the final episodes of the show, and the last time that we'll ever get to see these two together on screen, especially in this show. Even with Cobra Kai, that kind of gets its redemption from Kreese, especially Johnny resumes it in the right way, especially as we have this very emotional moment between Johnny and Kreese, for how Kreese wasn't always there for him, especially after what happened at the end of the first Karate Kid movie, as Johnny led a wasted life by having a beard and having no one ever to root for him, especially as he didn't have a father figure growing up. And honestly, this performance from William Zabka was the best I have ever seen out of the show. I mean, I give this man some awards, man, because especially as this emotional moment was really something. And then with Cobra Kai, that gets redeemed in the right way by Johnny, Johnny. Yeah, let's face it, he's the one that started back up before Kreese and Silver turned into a war zone of fighting weapons, as they bring Miguel and Tori up as they're about to be the replacements with Cobra Kai. And then with the remaining opponents, and that is with Miguel and Tori and Zara and Axel, and then we see Tori defeating Zara, and with the way that they ended with her incredible moves, because especially after everything that she has been going through, she decides to adapt it all into defeating Zara, who is like the arch nemesis, which I really hated in the show. But then she literally wins and ends by Lily knocking her tooth out, and that's how amazing it really is. And then with Tori, that she has won, and then we get this moment between Miguel and Johnny, and we get flashbacks of the two of them from way early on at the start of the show, for when Johnny was training Miguel, because when Johnny revamped up Cobra Kai, and the moment for when Johnny gives Miguel his black headband, it really savors it everywhere, because especially for what got Miguel here in the first place to fight in the Segai Taigai, what kind of strength and power that he needs against Axel is for his guidance, and that's with Johnny, and that's been helping him with his journey, and he serves as his son now, and he deserves that black headband. It's like a symbol of, I guess, Johnny Lawrence. We see the last opponents, Miguel and Axel, and even though that like with these sort of flashbacks, they really played a really big role in the last 2 episodes, and then we see like Miguel that really does a swing kick into Axel, and he falls down, and Miguel officially wins. I mean, bravo to Miguel and everything that he has went through, especially with his journey with Johnny, and especially with being a part of Cobra Kai, Miyagi-Do, and everything that has all been built up to this. And especially with Miguel and Tori, they have won, but there's one flaw, and that's with the Iron Dragons and Cobra Kai that is officially in a tie, and that means for how they're gonna break this tie is by having the fight between the senseis. And oh my gosh, especially as they end the penultimate episode like this, but even though towards the end we see Silver plotting his plan to kidnap Carmen and Laura, his wife and daughter, but then his plan gets stopped by Kreese, and as we see the two having their one last fight, and the way that their characters end is by Kreese throwing his cigar into gasoline that causes the yacht to explode, killing them both. Because especially as this was bound to happen, because even though that it was revealed that Silver only had a limited time left to live, and he was taking all those pills, especially after he brought back on the Segai Taigai, and I'm glad that those 2 characters had their moments, and those characters are gone now, because their last words were no mercy, and that's how their characters die. And the fact that their deaths never got acknowledged or being brought up as the way that Daniel and Johnny would have reacted. And then we move into the series finale when it is revealed that Johnny now has to fight a Sensei Wolf. And then in this training montage for when we see Daniel training Johnny as his sensei, and this is a very powerful moment between the two, as we see this iconic shot of Daniel and Johnny doing the pose as is revealed from first look photos, and then especially with this little pep talk that they have, and with Daniel that brings up the Rocky movies, especially the original, which is like the Go movie, the Best Picture winner, and it's the most iconic movie of all time, especially as we have this whole montage. It is really a recreation of the iconic moments from Rocky for what it inspired the pop culture to be, and especially as we have people in the valley supporting Johnny and rooting for him to make sure that he wins, because especially at the beginning of the final episode, for when we see Johnny visiting his mother's grave, and that was taking place in 2017, when no one was ever rooting for him. He never had a father figure in his life, and I'm pretty sure that Johnny is living his happily ever after and giving him the happy ending that he deserves. And then in the final fight in the Segai Taigai between Johnny and Sensei Wolf, and then we see moments between Daniel and Johnny before they end the whole thing, and as they have the moment and kind of reference the end of the very first Karate Kid movie of when Johnny was in Cobra Kai and using his technique but like Daniel was just giving him the pep talk that he needed. And also, one detail that I definitely want to point out here is when Daniel tells Johnny about what he learned at Miyagi-Do is to maintain a balance. And I think that's what the similar lesson that Mr. Miyagi taught Daniel in the very first Karate Kid movie, is especially what that plays into the factor of the final minutes of the tournament, because especially when we get the little scene for when Daniel used the crane kick to defeat Johnny in the All Valley, and I thought they were gonna do that route, that direction, but I guess they decided to go somewhere different and just to play it safe. Even though like I thought they were gonna use like some type of like callback from when Daniel defeated Johnny, and then we see the one last time Johnny has finally defeated Wolf, and Johnny is declared winner of the Singai Taikai. And honestly, it was a great way to end the show, because let's all face it, it started with Johnny and his plan to revamp up Cobra Kai and to train Miguel, but then it ended with him and to start up a Cobra Kai, but in the right way. He wanted that redemption, and I'm glad that he has his happy ending. And after the tournament, after Johnny has won, what better way to close out the show than to have Guns N' Roses have a song playing in the final minutes of the show, which I think is brilliant, especially with everyone that is going off their separate ways, and especially with Johnny that has now bought the house for him, Carmen, and Laura to move into. And I am so happy for Johnny that he is now a family man, that he is now married and gets to live out his happily ever after. He is getting his happy ending, and you know that we see Tori and Robbie and going off as real fighters and competing in tournaments, so their lives changed forever, and we see everyone going off to college. And then we got these last final moments as Sam is about to jet off to Okinawa for a year, and with Daniel and Sam having that one final moment that is really heartfelt. And then we get a one final moment between Miguel and Sam, and they are the best couple in the show, and Miguel insisted to jet off to Okinawa with her as like his moment, as Stanford can wait. And then it is really emotional, but between the two, and in the final minutes of the show, we get one last appearance by Stingray. And honestly, with Paul Walter Hauser's performance as the character, like, he is the GOAT, and the way that he served this role as one badass character, it was really legendary as well to see that being pulled off. And we find out that he is working for Johnny at a new location for the Cobra Kai dojo, but then we see Johnny as the main man running this new location with a bunch of new beginner students. And this wind up back to where it all started, because it started with Johnny and ended with Johnny, because if you see the pattern here for how the show ended, because that's all really what we wanted for Johnny and for what he went through, especially with his journey of training Miguel and for what he's been through for the past 30 years after getting defeated in the All Valley tournament, but now to be teaching a whole new group of students as a sensei, living his life as a family man, gives him the happy ending and the happily ever after that Johnny deserves. And then with the last scene is with Daniel and Johnny sitting together, and with a fly that comes in, and we literally get a one last callback to the first Karate Kid movie for when Daniel tries to use his chopsticks to catch the fly. I think a Miyagi flashback of when Daniel caught it the first time, and Miyagi called it beginner luck. But then when Johnny comes in and catches the fly, and then one last line is spoken by Johnny is "No mercy," and the show ends from there. And honestly, with my final thoughts, I really enjoyed the show from the start. It had the best writing, great fighting sequences, the best action, and just great drama and really great characters that really got their chance to shine, especially as they got their send-off, that were right off into the sunset as they're all off to college, and it had a good ending between Daniel and Johnny of what their future holds, and honestly, it was a very great ending for all of our main characters and the proper story arcs, and even with Kreese and Silver that they're gone, it brings us series full circle. I've enjoyed it from the start for what it delivered, and yeah, this was the best series finale I've seen in a long time, and it got me in so many ways. And yeah, that's all I got, and I really enjoyed the show, and this was a great ending. But that's gonna do it for this video. Just let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts on Cobra Kai, its series finale, the ending, and just what are your thoughts on the entire series in general? Just let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to notifications about future videos. And also follow all my social medias over linked down below. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.